Hey everybody, it's Gabe again, making you another video for Woven Wings. And today I want to focus on something I was talking about with a group of clients of mine, all guys, on a monthly call that we had this morning. And that was the idea of center, finding our center. We use this idea of a center post, thinking about the center post of our life. What is the center of your life? I was sharing with them a story from back when I was in college and I went on a spring break trip to the Netherlands, to Amsterdam. And on the very last day of that trip, me and my friend, we went to the beach and we found this marking post on the beach. It was, I think, marking mileage on the sand there, and ended up sitting down and leaning against that post. And before I knew it, a couple hours had gone by. And what I noticed as I was sitting there was that all this stuff, all this phenomena, these thoughts, these different feelings, these different impressions were all swirling around in my head, right? They were just spinning around, and something about being in that place at the beach that day, feeling the wind, hearing the waves, suddenly, slowly it started to clear that stuff out, right? And before I knew it, a couple hours had gone by and all of this cloud of thoughts and all that stuff had cleared, and in its place was the yellow of the sand, right? And the blue of the ocean, the water, and the presence, the simplicity of being where I was. And I was filled with this sense of grace. It was an energetic feeling of solidity, of being present, being there. That moment passed, but in that moment I felt freedom. I felt like I'd been liberated from all this stuff that had been bothering me. So how did that happen? How does that work? That's such an important thing, to be able to find that. And when I was speaking about this with my clients this morning, or a group of amazing guys, there were just amazing things that people shared. One of them spoke about this hurricane of to-dos, all the stuff, the must-dos, the obligations we have, the need to go out and work and fight, right? That becomes part of that swirl that's happening inside for him. Another person talked about if we actually go and try to find this center, well, the first thing that comes up is something different. Like if I go and try to find, okay, what is this center post inside myself? Well, the first thing that I associate is stuff around like external things, actually. Things that I think are really important to me, that are core to my identity, but they're actually my work or my career, my family, my relationships, right? They're actually things that are outside of myself. I think that's something that we really commonly do, is we just naturally find ourselves identifying with all this phenomena that's going on around us, right? And so in the process of actually finding our center post, it's really a process. We have to kind of clear back all the brambles, all the associations and identifications that we have come to in our everyday lives in order to connect with this inner state, this essential ground of being, this true self of who we really are. And it's so important that we do that, because that's really what our life is actually based on. It's an interesting thing to think about, going about your life and thinking that you are identified as some profession, but is that really true? Of course not. You know, that's going to change and it will pass, and then you'll be still there. So who are you after that changes? All these things are really important for us to look at. Figuring out what we actually are is more difficult, because that day on the beach, it was easy because I was sitting against this post, but that marking post wasn't really the center post of my life. It was just a stand-in to help me go inside to this other place, to be able to let go of all the other stuff, to find this other space inside me. But it's hard to understand what that space is, because it's not so clearly defined the way a job is, or our relationship with our family is, right? It's an amorphous space. It's kind of a feeling, or it has a feeling associated with it, but it's not even really a feeling. It's ultimately of vastness that has no smell, no sound, no taste, no sight. There's nothing that we can put to define it. And then the only thing we can use to try to explain what that experience is like is our words. There are some other things. There's the transmission of how we are, the embodiment of how we are. But when we try to describe what is this center place with our language, it always comes up short because it can only be in reference to other words, right? The good news is that in contrast to trying to define it or grasp it with our mind, it is something that we can feel, right? So it is something that if we allow our awareness to travel inward and travel downward, right, out of the swirling maelstrom of our head and our thoughts and everything that we have going on, and that we disembody and disconnect from ourselves, we can begin to travel inward, and our energy can start to recenter, reunify with our consciousness. And though we can't define it, we can't fully say or claim exactly what that center post is, we can feel it, we can experience it. We have a direct access to it because ultimately it's who we are. It's the essence of who we actually are. And so it's something that we can feel and that we can cultivate. Okay, and that's something that is really important to do. It's one thing to kind of have that experience as I did at that time, or as my client said, to have this experience of divine love pouring out of him. But if we want to experience that in our life, we need to actually practice it. We need to cultivate the practice of slowing down, as I've talked about in other videos on our channel, and really taking the time to actually come inside and make a connection with our inner selves. Set aside these other pieces that we are busying ourselves with in our day-to-day. Part of what happens is that the external stimuli, right, the external world is really seductive, and it's very easy to kind of become confused and misguided, where we end up identifying and attaching to the external stimuli that is going on, even the external identifications that we put our identity into. And then as a result, because the innermost self, the center post, is more amorphous, it's really easy to just kind of get confused and lost in that, and suddenly we kind of get carried along into whatever trip that we get spun into. So we are constantly doing that. We're always kind of getting attached to whatever is the most important thing in a given moment, and forgetting to come back, how to come back. And so we do have to practice coming back. And you can watch other videos on our channel or reach out to me about how do we actually cultivate that and develop that as a practice that we practice every day, as bringing it as much as we can into every moment. But a couple things that I can say here, some of which I've shared already, is that really it's the process of letting go of some of all of that drama and feeling the energetic unification inside ourselves, letting ourselves travel inside, letting ourselves relax, and letting ourselves trust that if we actually allow ourselves to do that, we can connect with something valuable and worthwhile. One of the things that I think comes up for me and for many people when I start to actually do those practices, when I'm doing my daily practice, is all this resistance, all these voices that say, no, that's boring, or it's too difficult, or it's not worth my time, or it's scary. I'll suddenly feel a bout of panic right before I'm going to go do my meditation and Qigong practices. What is that? That's me not trusting my own center. That's me trying to get away from myself, from the reality of my life. But as soon as I cross that threshold and I'm in the practice, then it's so clear immediately how nourishing the whole thing is. So I really want to encourage you to make this a goal of yours, because without our center, we have nothing. We busy our lives with so much stuff that we think is so important, but at the end of the day, what is it all for? So we really need this. This is the foundation of our life. This is the core of our being, and it's essential in order to have a healthy life, to have a meaningful life, that we be in touch with this as much as we can. And so just want to encourage you, as I found on that beach so many years ago, to find a place to sit down or go for a walk. Sitting down is the metaphor, but to sit down and be with yourself and let the other stuff kind of start to clear away. And whatever it is that feels so important in all of this, of course, we have to deal with life. You'll deal with it. But in the meantime, give yourself the gift of becoming present, of showing up for yourself, of bringing yourself back into union between your mind, body, and spirit. Bring your energy into coherence and start there and see where it takes you. So I wish you the best in finding your own center post. Let the craziness of the world, let it go, and come back to this, to beauty, to nature. So with that, just wishing you well. Look forward to seeing you next time, and I'll see you out there. Bye.